All right, I'm in. How do I click through the pages? Oh, next. Okay. All right. Okay, I can't hear her on air. Yeah, there we go. But I don't hear her. Turn audio off. Turn video on.
We see you, Dean.
Yay. Okay.
Welcome,
We
everyone.
don't see you, Sarah.
No, you don't. We just wanted to welcome everyone. People are slowly getting on. We'll get started in just about 30 to 60 seconds. Right now we're at about 65 people, so we have 160 signed up. So just give me 1 minute and we'll let a couple more get on.
Hey, Dean, is this where we do the check to see if you have pants on?
Jack.
You see all those reporters and stuff, and there's a little glimpse that you see later where they're only in their boxers and their dress shirts.
My wife can tell you, I've changed my shorts in my car many times, inside the car, outside the car, in the back of the car, beside the car.
Okay, since we're talking about pants, should we go ahead and get started?
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll just start the presentation, Dean, so then you can control it after that. Welcome, everyone. We are doing a webinar today on discovering the real value of the professional appliance service to your customer. I'd like to introduce Dean Landers, the president of Landers Appliance and author of the Appliance Blue Book. And then we also have Jack Miller, the managing partner of Service Company Solutions, who publishes the Blue Book. Okay, gentlemen, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. Jack, you want to say anything before I start?
I can wait. I can wait till the end unless they need a question answered.
Okay. So this webinar came up. Sarah asked us if we would discuss charging, because the question came up during one of the previous webinars about should we charge extra for hazard pay to cover rates. And so, you know, obviously I'm the author of the Blue Book. So my take is that, and I'll get into this more and more, is that there's a real value to professional service pricing, and that if you're not already doing that, then certainly you need to raise your rates to cover that. But I would not call it hazard pay, and I'll explain why. So really, this is a conversation on what you see at the top of your screen if you're on there is the real value that you offer as a professional service company. And then the question is, well, why do you charge what you charge if you're not charging professional rates? The conversation I've had with dozens and dozens, hundreds of service owners is that they don't really have a set reason as to why they charge. They've never gone down and done the deep dive. And so what I want to do is present what I think is a pretty reasoned argument for why you should charge what you should be charging, which is professional rates. So with that, and please feel free to ask questions. I think you have the ability to send in a chat request. Please do that. But one of the things I want to say right out of the gate is most of us as business owners in the service business believe that people buy price, and it's not true. Most customers, and I shouldn't say all because it's not true, some do buy price, but most people do not buy price, they buy value. And value, that is part of what I'll demonstrate by what you can offer to your various customers, who your customer is, why they would buy from you and not the guy down the street. So customers buy value, they don't buy price. So let me just get that out. And so here's a shameless promotion. Obviously, we do hawk the Blue Book. Jack will talk about that at the end. And that you see it, make it easy, buy the Blue Book. So I won't belabor that point. So What does it mean about buying value? So, there's two things. There's tangible and intangible of what we offer. And the tangible is that, sure, we're going to fix your appliance. I mean, that's why people call. They call because they want their appliance fixed. But that's only part of what we do, because people are making the assumption that we're going to do it professionally, personally, and promptly. But that's not always true. And it's certainly not true if you call it one of the major nationals, right? They may do it what they term is professional, but most customers would disagree. They certainly don't do it personally, and it's a joke. They don't do it promptly. So I'd say they fail on at least 2.5 of those 3 that are intangible. It's hard to identify, and every single person has a different gauge or definition for what it would mean to be professional. That is what we offer customers. We offer personal, prompt, professional service as an independent service company. That's what people buy. They buy that, and that is an intangible. So certainly we're going to come out and fix the appliance. I get it. That's what everybody does. We're in the appliance repair business. So why would a customer call you instead of the guy down the street? Well, it's because they drink your Kool-Aid. They like you for whatever reason. There's personal connection to you and your company. They're not buying your price. They're buying you and what you as a company offer. And I have a little note there. It's as much as what you say as it is what you do, and they should be the same thing. Things that you say, you should also do. Things that you do, you should also be communicating to a customer. You should offer the tangible and identify it, but you should preach and push the intangible, because they're the things that make a difference to a customer. So why do people call your company? Because they need you, and they actually probably like you. That's why they call you. They're not, and you shouldn't be trying to sell price. Like, I'll give you an example. If a customer calls you, and a lot of people don't know anything else to ask except, what do you charge for a service charge? It's the fool that would answer them and tell them directly what the price is. What you really should do is offer to the customer right then and there how fast you can get out, anything that you've done that would identify you as a special company. Like, have you won anything? Have you been honored in any kind of a way, with any kind of a neighborhood award or whatever? Say something about your professionalism, maybe your guarantee, how fast you can get out. Like, for instance, Mr. Landers, I can have a guy there tomorrow before 12 o'clock. We have been to factory training. We're authorized on that brand. We're an award-winning company. My technician's been here for 15 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter, certified. And our service charge is. So you've told them a whole lot of what they really want to know, but they didn't know to ask, and you've then answered their question. So don't sell price. I'll give you an example. You can go to a restaurant, and if you've ever noticed, nicer restaurants charge more for beer and wine, and it's the same beer and wine you can buy at a cheaper restaurant. Same thing with burgers or food or anything, right? Ladies' fashion. Why do people buy Vera Wang or any of the other high-end brands? They want that. That's what they like. They're buying that because they see it as a value. So I want you to concentrate on delivering and selling added value, not price. Price does not play. Now, there's a slide further on. You'll see it. I'm going to say it now. There are some customers that you have that are looking for cheap. They are not your customer. At least they're not your customer forever. Because the first time that something goes askew, you didn't charge what you said, whatever. They're always looking for the guy who's, $10 cheaper. If that's the customer you want, then chase them down. I would strongly discourage you from doing that. I think you should focus on your value that you're offering the customer, not the price. So here's a question. You've got prices that you're charging, but do you have any idea what they're based on? Have you thoroughly gone through and done a COBD, a cost of doing business analysis of your company? Most people don't. They don't take the time. It's not that hard, but when you consider a whole lot of things that we'll talk about, which I already mentioned, intangibles. So there's intangibles of what a customer is looking at, and there's intangibles of what you have internal to your company that affect your pricing structure. So what are your prices based on? And so the Blue Book and professional pricing in general takes all of those things into account. So why do you charge what you charge? How do you decide the price? Did you call the guy down the street and you're trying to stay lower than them? I mean, what did you do to determine your prices? Are you making a profit on what you charge? And if you're making a profit, did you take everything into consideration? So these are deep dive questions that you have to think about, work through, pen and paper, to decide if you're in the right ballpark for what you charge. Because let me give you an example. Why is it that A&E or any of the nationals can charge what they charge? And I've done this too many times. I've not had a single company in front of the thousands of service companies that I've stood before and offered this presentation, literally thousands now. I've not had a single company tell me that the nationals do a better job than they do. And when I ask, well, who charges more? They say they do. And I say, well, how does that work? Why would you allow them to charge more or not charge a more reasonable price than what you charge? And they say customers won't pay it. And I said, well, they're paying them and it's mediocre service. So what you get down to is it's really the mindset of the business owner, what they've decided that they're not worth a professional rate. And it's just not true. People will pay you a professional rate if you're providing professional services. So simple terms, you should always base your pricing obviously on what it costs, what your costs are, your real costs. And obviously you want to factor in what it is to make a profit. And you have to determine what that profit margin is. Now, covering costs, this is what a lot of people get hung up on, in that they don't always add in all the things that involve real costs. So I'm going to show you a whole bunch of things. I'm not trying to spin your head. I'm trying to give you an encapsulated picture of all the things you should be calculating as part of your pen or paper, pencil and pen, to determine what your costs are so that you can be charging properly. Because I think I've already said, and I'll go through this some more, that people are buying the value that you offer, not the price that you charge. So if you're not charging enough, you're cheating yourself. The customer's not cheating you because you're the one that determines your own costs. So let's look at that. So what do I mean by that? So customers are willing to pay for value. I mean, that's a given. And I'll give you some specific examples. They will pay for value. But most companies don't quite grasp or understand the value of what they offer, and so that they won't charge professional or Blue Book prices. They shy away from it because they argue with me that they're not worth it. In the end of it, that's what they don't say it that way, but that's ultimately where it comes down to, because they won't acknowledge that the nationals are any better than them. They do all the things that a professional service company does with expertise, kindness, consistency. They're easy to do business with. They're conscientious. They're empathetic to customers. They'll do crazy things that a national company would never do. And all that's expensive. It's expensive, and customers will pay for that. But we've got it in our head, no, they won't. And that's wrong thinking on our part. I can tell you, it's wrong thinking on our part. I've walked with too many companies through this entire pricing process, from where they were so far undercharging to instituting the Blue Book, helping train their staff, watching their P&Ls show a healthy profit, where then they could add in extra benefits to their staff, where they could write in profits that they're legitimately entitled to because they're offering professional service to their customers. So here's what I'm going to show you, that small business owners, like I was, we misunderstand. We have this, I'm terming it a warped value estimation for our own companies and for professional service in general. And I'm not sure where we get it from, but I've watched too many companies shy away from being able to own up and say what their service charge is. So, and a lot of times it has to do with we're not trained in the finer arts of what I'm going to call sales. And a lot of guys in the service business hate that terminology of being in sales. But in essence, we sell service. So service has a cost, but because we're not salespeople, we shy away from looking a customer in the eye and telling them what it is, or if they're on the phone, of feeling no hesitation of presenting to them a professional service charge rate. So we look down at the ground, we kick the dirt, we hem and haw about it, instead of simply understanding what the costs are. This is what it costs to run a professional, personal, engaged service company today. It's professional rates, and we should have no hesitation, no qualm in presenting that to a customer. So the problem is almost always inside somebody's head as a small business owner. And I've done this enough, as I've said, that that is usually what it comes down to. There's very seldom extenuating circumstances that do anything but that. I have had some concessions in that some people were in very small service areas where the town is under some degree of depression, where then I say, okay, we'll take professional rates and discount it, reduce it by a specific dollar amount, but you start with the basis of showing what the national rates are, and then you discount off of that. You don't do it by guessing. You do it with professional rates. So are you making a profit? So this is a yes or no question, and I'm going to answer both sides of this. We're going to look at what if you said yes and what if you said no. So are you currently charging a rate that provides a profit? Now, I'm going to drill down into these, and I don't mean to offend, but I hope you're taking notes, and feel free, even if you don't ask me a question in this venue, you'll get my email address, send me an email. I'm happy to address it. Jack and I both would speak to you in reference to it. So let's first look at the yes. Are you charging a professional rate? And if you answered yes, then I'm going to say, are you sure that you've covered all your legitimate costs in your profit and loss statement? And listen, I have some friends that are very small businesses. They don't have profit and loss statements. They use their checkbook. Okay, I mean, you can do that. That's not a way a business person runs their company. I don't care how small you are. QuickBooks has a very simplified profit and loss statement you can use. You can set some scratch profit and loss statements up off of Excel spreadsheets. So you should have something, because those documents are designed to help you understand profit and loss. Your checkbook's not going to do that. It's just going to show you whether you have a plus balance in the checkbook. What does that mean? Not a lot from running a professional company. So you could say to me, well, Dean, I'm one man, I'm by myself. I have 3 people. I don't need that. Yes, you do. You're running a company. You're a business. This is what businesses use, and they're not hard to set up. So don't let the fear of the unknown shy you away from looking at structuring one of those for yourself. So question I ask is, are you paying yourself a professional salary? Well, what does that mean? So if you're a small business owner, you're both a service technician and you're the owner. So you do the admin, you probably do the marketing, you have a whole lot of jobs. Are you charging for each of those jobs because you're doing multiples? What about the hours you're working? I actually have a friend who's in a different industry, but I had him list all the jobs he did in his own company. And then I said, how much time do you spend on each of those jobs? And then I want you to put a dollar value that you would have to pay somebody else to do that job for you. Think about that. All the jobs you do, list, and then are you paying and list the hours, and then are you paying yourself for those hours? Not just the hours that you go out and do the repairs, all those jobs that you do. And then what about traditional benefits? A lot of people tell me, well, I'm on my wife's health plan. I opted out of workman's comp. I don't have a disability. I don't need to pay unemployment insurance. I don't have a retirement, or if I do, it's a minimal retirement plan. Well, they're legitimate business costs. So whether they're in place right now or not, your pricing structure should be such that it includes those things as benefits. Because I can tell you, when you start to hire people, they're going to want to look and see if you're offering those kinds of things. Are you offering legitimate benefits? A lot of people aren't. And that's a disadvantage because, frankly, if you went to a company that was, and if you were applying and you weren't in business for yourself, you looked at two companies, they're both giving you about the same amount of pay, but one offers benefits and the other doesn't, who are you going to and why? So you should certainly be tracking and adding in what those costs would be into your cost of doing business. Whether you're using them or not, they should be part and parcel of that. And then a lot of people, I wrote some simple, stupid things in there, but all those things are legitimate costs: pens, stamps, envelopes, subscriptions, seminar fees, the internet. Are you charging yourself for your warehouse or your garage or your office space, even if you're not deducting it, which obviously you're entitled to deduct a portion of that on your income tax, which means you have to charge for it. Or as an owner, are you paying for your think time, your planning, your risk taking? Do you vision cast? So you could say, well, I had this brain fart on the drive to my last call. Well, that's admin time. That's the owner's think time. Are you covering that? And I know that may be a stretch for some of you, so forgive me, but I'm trying to help you think bigger than most of us think as we work through this. So I mentioned the traditional benefits. These are reasonable. As I said, if you're looking at expanding, you're certainly going to have these expenses that come up. People want these. I think everybody's in the middle of hiring right now and or trying to hire. I know we are. We have 4 jobs that we're advertising for right now. And so we offer those kinds of things. So it's a distinct advantage to anybody that would have those things in place as a one-up for you against anybody else that they would be interviewing against you. So, and they don't have to. Yep, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, we have a question from somebody watching about are prices consistently updated to reflect current pricing?
Yes, so there's 2 things. So you have the paper blue book, which we do update periodically. And every time Jack runs about 20 or 30 new books, he updates all the part pricing. The labor and service charge pricing is updated once every year to 18 months. The electronic version is actually structured around, you can change that at any time. So we make recommendations on the paper book, but you have the ability to change the rates in there to whatever you think is legitimate. For instance, we have people in Boston and LA and New York that can't charge the traditional blue book rates. They're too low. And so Atlanta, they have to charge more. And so they charge more than what we would recommend. Some areas charge less, and the electronic version lets you do that automatically. So yes, we do. And yes, it's customizable depending on the mode that you choose to buy. Thanks for the question. So I mentioned the multiple jobs. So I've just listed some things. Technicians are going to make $25 to $40 an hour. Customer service reps, depending on the market that you're in, 12 to 20. Bookkeepers, 18 to 25, maybe even more if you're hiring a CPA, obviously. Marketing, depending on what you're getting them to do. A manager. And then what about an owner? What's an owner or an admin eligible for? If you spent time and added up these, as I was telling you, my friend that did it, he was flabbergasted at the amount of admin time he was spending on these various things. He was arguing with me. He was doing some flipping of houses, and he was doing a lot of the work himself. And in fact, I've done this with 2 people now that are in the house flipping market. And I showed them that it did not pay them to do the work themselves. They were able to hire out other people to do the work, that it could get on the market quicker, that they could flip their houses quicker than them doing the work, because they were taking a $40 or $50 an hour person and they're doing a $20 an hour job. That doesn't make sense. So if you can focus your energies on what you're best at, then you should outsource the things that you're not good at, especially if they're lower priced per hour jobs. I hope that makes sense to everybody. And doing that little exercise there is no joke. It's interesting what you end up with if you catalog all those things. And I just listed a few of them there that I think are pretty consistent to every small appliance service company out there. On the CSR side, I say to guys that are one-man operations particularly, don't ever answer the phone yourself. Please hire a stay-at-home mom, let her answer the phone live. She's friendlier than you are. You're not going to be interrupted while you're under the dishwasher fixing something while you're in another customer's house with another customer who wants it. You don't have a customer wait because they're getting their phone answered live, and it's cheap. Those people will not gouge you. Find somebody friendly that would do it from home. They would love it, you would love it, and it will serve you on every single point. I assure you. I've heard from too many people that have done that, that's been a real plus for them. So what if you answered no? Why aren't your rates producing profit? Well, the first thing you ask is, well, why not? Is it because you have a low call volume and you think that not charging people are buying price? Well, it could be. If you've just started in business, I get you're trying to get a foothold. You probably have to start less than other people, but maybe not. Depends on what you're doing. You're certainly cheating your company by not charging properly, in my estimation, particularly if you're established. Have you looked at evaluated the types of customers that you have? So if you say, well, Dean, I have this type of customer, large apartment complexes, and they will only pay X. Well, then I'd say do a cost analysis of what it takes for you to do service for those. Are they profitable for you to do that? Because does it mean you're chasing away other customers that would pay you more to get the customers that would pay you less? And I don't mention in this manufacturer warranty, because I know a lot of people are doing that. But if it's an unprofitable business, if it's outside your normal service area, then it's detracting from your ability to grow the profitable side of business in your market area. So think about that. Identify the areas that you're strongest, the type of business that you attract already, and look at the businesses, the customers that you have that are less profitable, and considering of shrinking your market, your business, to eliminate those, to leave you room for the other customers. If you're not having to push away, or if you are having to push away the customers that really fit your business model better. And then, I asked the question, what are you doing to grow your company? Are you spending any time on marketing? A lot of people tell me, no, I'm so busy I can't. Well, if you're so busy that you can't, then you should have money to hire somebody to do it for you. So obviously you would have the ability to hire somebody to professionalize your website, to create some kind of a marketing tool that would let you go out and solicit new customers. Just enhancing your website, doing a blog on your website, sending out an e-letter to your existing customers, writing a pamphlet and sticking down under car windshields at a state fair or someplace that you won't get arrested. Don't go on properties that will get you arrested, and don't leaflet places that prevent it, because you could also get fined. But that's a cheap way to do it. And you can always put it on people's doors. During election season, on the local politicians, a lot of people come and knock on your door and they want to talk to you. They'll bring out a swarm of people. Well, taking a swarm of people with a little leaflet and putting on people's door, in their window, on their porch, don't put it in their mailbox. That's federal property. It's not, unless you stamped the thing. It's cheaper to just go out and hand it and introduce yourself. Tremendous way to garner some new customers. Go to a new development that's 2, 3, 4 years old, that the products are out of warranty, and leaflet the place. So that's an extra, by the way, not part of this presentation, but worth mentioning. There's ways to do it. So you've got to figure out where you're spending your money. A lot of time people are wasting their money or their time in places that are not of value. So if you have low call volume, I mentioned looking at who your customers are and then figuring out how to schedule customers so that you can get the collection in the proper area. Obviously, hiring the right people, looking at your own processes, such as answering your own phone. I mentioned that's a pet peeve of mine. I don't think anybody should answer their own phone if you're in the service business, unless you have a sweet, caring, empathetic voice. Jack, you have a question?
Hey, Dean, we have another question. Yeah. How do you compare prices, home warranties versus CODs, since home warranties saves you marketing?
So if marketing as an average is going to be somewhere between 7, depends on who the company is, but if you look at marketing in the appliance service industry, on warranty heavy companies, they do about 1% or a half of 1% of their revenue for marketing. Very, very low. Companies that focus on COD are doing somewhere between 7 and 15% of their revenue on marketing. So if, for instance, your COD number is $150, then, and I'm just using a number to make it easy for me to calculate, that's 20, if it's 10%, that's $15 that it costs you to get that $150 customer. So $115 off of 150 is 135. If the home warranties are in that ballpark, that's what your marketing is. But remember, you're only talking about marketing. Your admin costs on the TPA stuff, the third party, is higher because you've got to chase down your money as opposed to collecting it from the customer right there. They're not paying you right away, most of them. So, if your money goes 90 days out, by the way, you've zeroed out your profit. You have zero profit at 90 days collection. At 60, it's half the profit. At 30, you're minimizing the profit that you have. So if you have a 10% profit margin, at 90 days, because it took 90 days to get paid, you have a zero profit margin. Your profit went away because you carried all the costs for 90 days. So there is no profit in there that started with a 10% margin. Pay attention to that. So you may get a reasonable rate of return, but remember, it's not just marketing. It's also being able to manage the back-end admin on collecting your monies. Thanks for the questions. I like them, so please bring them. I get very bothered by business owners cheating themselves. And so if you haven't heard that in my voice, so analyzing your own basic service charge and rate structure is, it's a baseline thing. You have to look at that. And as I said before, you have to analyze the types of customers that you have. You want to get rid of them. Manufacturer warranty too low and they're driving you nuts. I'm not a bridge burner. Don't call them up and give them a piece of your mind. They're paying you what they can get away with paying you because they're in business to make money. Don't be mad at them. That's their cost of doing business. If they can find somebody to do it cheaper and you happen to be that person, great. But if you can renegotiate your rates, great. But don't begrudge them because you've agreed to accept a warranty rate that's very low. It's not on them, it's on you. Don't agree to it. And if you have agreed to it, then look at canceling them or putting them on a very low call volume. If they're slow to pay, I mentioned that. And that's across the board. Look, if you have a property management company that's consistently 90 days, you're killing yourself because they probably negotiated a rate that's lower anyway. We have a deal here. We go through companies, we vet all the ones that have open accounts with us. And on day 30, if we haven't gotten paid, they start to get phone calls every 2 or 3 days until we get our money. And if they consistently stretch out their money, we cut them off. We make them COD.
Hey, Dean, we have another question. What's your take on property managers, most with a net of 30?
So I just mentioned property managers. If you're net 30, watch what you lower your costs at. Remember, if your marketing is somewhere between 7 and 15%, you've got some carrying costs on the admin side. So you've got to make sure you're offsetting that. So let's just use 10% as your marketing number. Whether it's that or not, your admin side is probably higher as well. So you don't pay on the marketing, but you are paying on the admin. So it might be 5% or a 7% swing. So if they want a 20% discount, you could actually be hurting yourself unless you can structure the calls where you're doing a whole lot of calls in one trip and they're clustered. If it's seamless to you, that's the kind of stuff, that you have to assess. But by and large, I've had to I've walked away from many property managers because they were slow to pay. The admin side of it was high. I never got any repairs out of it. It was only service charge because they were replacing it themselves. A lot of it was hand-holding of some of their tenants. It was tenant abuse. And then I got in the middle of squabbles between the landlord and the tenant. And, the landlord is our customer. That's who we're going to tell the truth to. And I'm not going to shy away from telling the tenant as well. So anyway, we have a lot of landlords that we do business with some large property management companies. But, we have a standard, they have a standard, and we have to agree to meet there in the middle. And if we can't, then they can go find somebody else to do it their way. But I wouldn't bend over backwards for anybody unless you've assessed that it's worth it to you. I'd also look at your service area. I know many guys stretch out their service area, but if you look at remote zip codes, which we do this every year or two, we'll look at our zip code list because we might have added in a zip code because it had a spike in calls, but we'll reduce our zip code list because what we found is that we don't get many calls from those zip codes, and yet the time it takes us to get there and to the next call doesn't make it worth our while. So we will reduce our service area, and you should do the same. And if it's a TPA and a property management company or a warranty, anybody that you've had negotiated rates on, you definitely should have a very tight service area around your base where you're traveling to and from. Don't extend yourself on those low pay calls because it is definitely not worth it to you, I assure you. So here's some things that I've talked to guys about. Do you factor in time off? And you say, well, yeah, I have money. That's not what I asked. In your structure of deciding what you charge, do you have vacation time built in there? And I would say vacation time for all of the various jobs that you do. So if you're marketing, CSR, admin, owner, technician, did you give all those people vacation time? Because they're all entitled to it. And when I say vacation time, I mean paid time off. And then do you have cash on hand to buy a new truck? Things happen. How about hiring a trainee? Right now, it seems that if you're hiring a trainee, it's 3 to keep 1, sometimes 4. You'll hire one, it doesn't work out. You fire them, you hire another one, it doesn't work out. Well, a month has happened. So you've paid salary for a month. You've lost a month's time. So do you have the money to have a trainee come on board? It's very, very expensive. It's efficient and it's effective, but you have to have the money to pay them. So obviously you should be attending training seminars. You've taken the time out to attend this, but some of them you're going to pay for, and you're going to pay a reasonable fee, like the annual ASTI that takes place this year. It's scheduled for San Antonio. Do you have a structure in place to replace tools? Tools fail, and look, you need new tools. Is your pricing set to cover that? Because it should. And don't think I'm nitpicking. I'm not nitpicking. These are legitimate costs that go into everybody's P&L. And, obviously, everybody needs profit in order to stay in business. Well, why, Dean? I've got profit. Well, how do you know you have profit? Because I looked at my checkbook. That's not legitimate. It's not legitimate long-term to manage a growing company. So there's dips and turns. The beginning of this year was very slow. And then obviously COVID hit and we had a very slow time. And then obviously in the last 5 weeks, it's like, everybody wants us out for service. So if you didn't have cash in the bank to prepare for that downturn in revenue, And what about an act of God, which let's call the COVID an act of God? What about a legal issue that comes up? You got $5,000 to pay an attorney? You should have money sitting in the bank to cover yourself. What about if, you damaged property and you don't want to put it through the insurance company? It's $1,000, and maybe you have a $2,000 deductible. I don't know what your deductible is, but whatever it is, maybe you just want to pay it out of pocket. You should have cash on hand. These are real. And I mentioned expansion before, new trucks. Obviously, there's always rising costs everywhere. Everywhere you look, things aren't going down, except the price of new appliances, which is a problem in and of itself. As our rates go up and their rates go down, a lot of people are opting prematurely to replace. Thank God, all these rates on new appliances are now going up. We now have a stronger mid-grade product that is in that $800 to $1,200 price point, besides the subs and the Wolves and the Vikings and whatnot, which people are going to fix. But catastrophic incidences, I had a friend that contracted cancer. I had another friend that had to have a knee replaced. These were one-man operations. What are they going to do? Sudden surprises. What about a total truck? One of my friends, he had two guys. He has 3 trucks, himself and 2 other guys, right? And they were following one another. Well, the guy in the front swerved to miss something. The guy in the front then hit whatever it was he was swerving to hit. And the guy in the back was tailgating him and totaled both trucks. He's out 2 trucks. This stuff happens. So obviously you need to be prepared for that. And then this is a very painful thing for me, because I also have done much consulting for people as they want to sell their companies. If you don't have professional service rates, then you don't have a saleable commodity, because you're not going to come to somebody that could buy you out and pay you some kind of a fee for your company unless you're charging reasonable rates. So, and you could say, well, I'm young, I'm not going to sell, blah, blah, blah. At some point you may want to. So know that if you've not been charging reasonable rates all along, and now all of a sudden you're going to come in with professional rates, or you sell your company, you're only going to get pennies on the dollar for what your company may be worth, because I know I'm going to lose 60% of your customers because they've been used to paying an hourly wage to you, as if you were working for them as an hourly wage, as opposed to a legitimate company. So if you don't understand what I mean there, please send me an email and I'll explain more to that point to you separately. So I've listed a whole bunch of things there. I'm not going to go into those. Obviously, you should have, the only thing I will mention is some benefits that you should absolutely have, which is 401k. You should definitely have some kind of a retirement. You should definitely be charging for health insurance and making sure that you're counting for time off, that you're covering those kinds of things. And you see, if you can see the screen, it says stuff I can't remember. In other words, there's a lot of stuff that should be in there that maybe you're covering and maybe you're not. I just want to flag it that these are real costs, legitimate business costs that you should be thinking about. And then, here's some more. The unforeseen circumstances. I had a meeting yesterday with my managers, 2 of my managers, and we were talking about some brands that are just giving us fits, some of the high-end brands, the boutique brands. And because of minor or insufficient or lack of any kind of technical support from the factory, parts issues, whatever, they're just giving us fits. So, we've had a price adjustment on those brands. Are you paying attention to that? Are you thinking about that? What about if you go in and have a water hammer issue, where the water pressure's too hard? It's not your fault, but you're going to get a call out on it. Hard or soft water, all those things that are unforeseen. And then obviously if you're training somebody, recalls, I don't know what your recall rate is. It should be less than 5% of your total. Product design, I mentioned that in the boutiques, but product design today, man, when I broke into this business, GE had a type of washer, Whirlpool had a type of washer, Maytag had a type of washer, and Frigidaire had a type of washer. Well, actually they had 2. And SpeedQueen had, the fluid drive, weirdo product that very few people know about. One machine for each of those 5 brands I mentioned. Now, each of those companies has 5 distinct designs. I mean, that's not to mention the front loads. So yeah, product design, you need to know a lot more. I would stack up an appliance repair technician against anybody in the HVAC, anybody in the plumbing, anybody in the electrical. Our base of knowledge is so much higher than theirs that it's not even funny. So we should be charging for that knowledge. That product knowledge is worth a lot. I don't know if you saw, there's food loss on that last one too. So why do we? So these are some comments that I've heard from either directly to my face or through somebody else they said during one of the seminars that I was offering. They've literally said my customers would never pay for that service, or if you're charging those rates, you're ripping people off. How can you rip somebody off if you've stated what your rates are up front and you've quoted in advance before you've done anything, and they've agreed to do it and they've signed to do it? Is that ripping somebody off, or is that they're selecting the quality of what you offer? They're self-selecting to buy what you offer. So there's no ripping off going on here. It's all transparent. And I've gotten the one, nobody in my market charges those rates. I'll never forget, about 30 years ago, I was working with a guy in Washington State, little town of 25,000 people. And he was arguing with me. And I finally said, well, look, try it, would you? Just try it. You're telling me they won't. You don't know. You're arguing with me from something you're thinking is a reality, and it's not. I said, put these rates into place and discount at $10. Just here's the rate in the book. I give a $10 or a $15 discount. I don't remember what he gave off. And the conversations on the backside of that were just really fun. He thanked me, and it was very successful for him in doing that. So, I don't care if it's rural, farming, small town, or whatever. You can still use these rates and discount off of it, but at least sets the standard that this is a legitimate professional rate that's nationalized, and you're using a national rate as a standard and you're discounting off of it, as opposed to you coming up with whatever you think the rate should be because you've not done any due diligence in thinking through what it could be. So I mentioned this before. I've got this in here several times. People do not buy price, they buy value. Please, please, please remember that. They don't buy price, they buy value. And the value that you offer is something that, I'll give you an example. So some of you, if you've sat on my calls before or classes, that you've heard me mention, I used to mention doctor and lawyer. Now I've thrown restaurant and roofer in there. But contractors, if you're going to have an addition done on your home and you're getting prices from 3 different contractors, why do you buy what they offer? Are you only looking at price? And it never happens that they are. They're always looking at reputation, at the quality of the work being offered, at the speed with which they can do it. Did they do what they said they were going to do in a contractor? And it's very seldom that they go with the lowest price. Sometimes they go with the middle, and sometimes they go with the higher. And the lowest price is oftentimes the last one they go with, because they don't offer those other things that show real value. Restaurants. Why do you go to the restaurants that you go to when you can go and buy a 6-pack of beer? It's $10 now, I know. But let's call it $1.50 a beer. When you go to a restaurant, they charge you $6 or $5 for the same beer. Why do you do that? Why do you go in there and buy a steak for $19.95 when you could pay $6 and take it home and cook it yourself? Roofers. Do you always go with the cheapest roofer? So I'm not going to belabor that point. You see what I'm trying to get at. When you assess where you spend your own dollars and why you buy from people that you buy from, you're not buying price. You're not buying price. In fact, in statistical analysis, when you look at the scientific data on it, usually price comes in to be 3rd, 4th, or 5th. It's very low 3rd. It's almost always 4th, and sometimes it's 5th. But, doing what you said you were going to do and doing it right are the 2 things that people look at the most. And, are you trustworthy Can people count on you to show up and do what you said you were going to do? They're the things that people like and look at, not this thought of, well, it's price. I've got to do it cheapest because that's what they're buying. That's not what they buy. They buy value. So if you're charging for the value that you offer, what is the value that you offer? Are you thinking about the value that you offer? What is it? And I'm saying that because I don't think a lot of people consider it. Who determines what value is? How do you monetize value? How do you put a dollar figure on it? Well, I think the market does that at some level for you, in that if you are the only one in town that does X, Y, Z, then there's a real value in that because you're the only one that does it. So you set the value. You're the one that determines the baseline value for what that is. You are. And then obviously how many people are going to buy that value from you is something that you're going to help determine. But value is, obviously you have to think about the value that you offer, and you have to think about the value that the customers are looking for. People primarily want a personalized service experience. They want to know that they can call you, they can call and ask for Dean, and they can get me on the phone. Even though I don't run service calls anymore and haven't for 30 years, they can still get me on the phone. They can talk to the owner. They can talk to you. Personalize it. There's a huge value in the personal connection, I can tell you. Where do you get your referrals from? You know, Facebook, if you go out and ask for a referral from your Facebook friends, and you'll get 10 things from your friends. Why are they referring the people that they've referred you to? My daughter asks about somebody that can shoot pictures for her family. She's got 4 beautiful little kids. What photographer do you trust? Well, here's the one, and they'd say why, and it's all about these personal connections. You're going to have that same experience. The technician was phenomenal. The technician explained everything to me. He was very professional. In fact, they won't even use the word technician. They'll normally know his name. That's how personalized it got. So you're providing a value based on the quality of service you deliver, and that's what people are buying from you. They're buying that professional, personalized quality service. So here's what I'm talking about specifically. People like consistency. I've done a comparison on this in other presentations where I take national companies and I base it or set it up against us in the private business. We win on all of these that I have listed here. They can't touch us on consistency because they're consistently inconsistent. They're so impersonalized, they can't get out of their own way. Their guarantee is not good. I know that if a customer calls me and it's a couple days or 2 weeks out of warranty, I'm going back. My staff knows. Don't ask me. Take care of the customer. What is it? It's nothing. Well, that's a value to a customer. It's not much to us, but it's a value to a customer. And how efficient are we? What's your speed of service? Are you getting out there today? Or are you getting out there whenever? And then could you ever imagine? I mean, it might have happened a couple times in that there was an accident, there was an injury, whatever. You have to call and say, Ms. Jones, I can't get a guy there today because such and such happened. The box and the big stores do it all the time. The technicians, in fact, they don't even call. He just doesn't show up. And then the customer spends an hour on the phone finding out what happened. Oh, well, you weren't on the schedule for today. No, I really was. So professionalism, they don't know how to offer what we would determine to be professional service, because professional service, in my estimation, is personal service. They're one and the same. They may have experience, but you're probably not getting the same guy 2 times in a row. They're going to send you whoever's convenient for them to send. And obviously, because they're training guys in caches of product categories, whereas we usually train people on the full amount of products that we service. Are we reliable? Certainly more reliable than they are. Are we honest? I hope you are honest. Nothing worse than being dishonest, because it always catches up to you. Do the right thing. Make communication with your company easy. Be empathetic to a customer. Don't be snotty or rude or disrespectful, or not think that you may not think. I was laughing at this through COVID. People were upset saying, I'm not doing dishwashers because I don't think it's essential. I don't know, I'm an essential service. And I'm thinking, Well, the customer thinks it's essential, and I can tell you that it will disinfect the dishes if they use a high temperature. So it can become essential, and it's certainly essential to them. So why are you deciding for the customer? You're not being empathetic to them. And I would say that falls under the reasonable line. You know, you're offering something quality. Are you trustworthy? Do you fix all brands? And if not, why not? Because you can charge differently for other brands. And even if you aren't sure, if you assure the customer that you'll give it a shot, give it a shot. Maybe it's a good way to enhance or grow your customer base by offering it to a higher end customer. It's not hard to be nice, pleasant, considerate, friendly. Obviously, you should be ethical, be straightforward with customers. Those things all, you look at that list, what is that? 11, 12, I don't know how many things there are, 15 things on that list. They are all reasonable things that everybody on this call would say, yes, I want that. That's what I want to do business with. So why shouldn't you offer it to your own customers? We should. So I've talked about added value, certainly, or value. It's always an added value. And I'm watching my time. I started a few minutes late, so I see that I'm 56 minutes into this, but I'm a few minutes late. So I'm going to run a couple minutes over. I hope everybody's okay with that. Tangible and intangible. I mentioned intangibles before. Who's providing the same level of tangible and intangible value? And is it common for us? Is it common for any industry? And those intangibles are the things I just mentioned. They're intangibles. And I'll go back there a minute and let you look at that list again. Like your guarantee, that's an intangible because it's just written on a piece of paper. Reliability. Who decides reliability? You have to put forth effort and have a track record to establish that. So you look at those things, they become tangible because they started out intangible and they moved over to tangible. And then people go, yeah, that's what I want. I want that added value. And, you know, and there are exceptions. I mentioned this before, that you will have customers that are only buying price. And so, yes, no doubt about it. They're buying price, they're looking for and only trying to buy price. So the only way they'll stay your customer is until somebody else charges less than you, and then they're going to be gone. But if you've demonstrated to the customer that's buying price that you are offering intangible values or added value, then you know what? They're going to stay your customer because that's what they want. So if you can change their valuing system from price to added value, and I would say to you, in my experience of 37 years in business and then 5 years in the industry working for somebody else, that's not hard to do. Because at the end of the day, you may have that customer go away, but they come back. So you will have a high rate of conversion in those customers in flipping them when you start to grasp the added value that you can offer to your customers. And that knowing that's what customers are buying. They're buying the added value. So here's a little example of something that I have. And quickly, you do this on your own. But if you had 20 service calls a week and and I've used very, 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 very low numbers because I didn't want to freak anybody out. I want you to stay with me. I'm looking at low numbers. So 20 calls a week, and you're bringing in an average of $130. I just did simple math, $2,600. Now increase the revenue by 15%. In other words, increase what you're charging and reduce the numbers of service calls by 15. So your 20 calls went down to 17. Your 130 went up to 149.50. So the 149.50 is only $2,541 multiplied by 17. So it's a reduction of $59 in revenue. Well, hold on. You spent 3 less service calls in getting to that point. So if you would argue to me, well, Dean, yeah, I'm making less money. No, you actually made more money because we're talking about your P&L. So even though you had a $59 reduction in revenue production, you got a savings in time, gas, wear and tear, and a whole lot of other things that I didn't even list. And I've used very simple low numbers to drive this point home and everything across the board. So If you were only charging $80 an hour, which is way too low, you should be higher than that if you're charging an hourly rate. That's $360. And then gas, what's gas cost? I threw a number in there. It's lower than that now, thank God. So our $59 in the hole went to a $315 savings. Do that math on your own. Look at the numbers of calls. Think about if you raised your rates 25% and your call volume went down 25%, and then look at these numbers and see how it plays out, because it will always play out in your favor. That's why I can say to you, look at unprofitable businesses that are taking your time. Take the time that you would have run those calls and go out and market your company to customers that would potentially pay you your COD rates. There's no reason why you have to give in to the companies that you're doing business with, other than that. Don't be offended at this, but it could be offensive if you're lazy and you don't want to go out and go get those other customers that are out there that are yours for the taking, because there's plenty of customers out there that are looking to buy added value, and there's very few companies that offer it. So think about that. So here's some, and you can look at that website. I've got 4 or 5 slides in here. This proves my point scientifically. They've drilled this down scientifically, psychologically, why people would pay more for those things. So they talk about a hierarchy that lives in a people's mind and why they would, and it's layered. And people, as things hit the higher places in the hierarchy in our minds, they're higher value to a customer. So it means they will pay more for it. Here's another one. So how can I provide the level of service that people value? Well, think about that, because compensation and your charges are in direct proportion to how much value you provide. So if you're not providing the value that we talked about, they're not costly to do. Even if you think they are, they're not. We have a policy where we refund customers money. And we'll do it if we fix something and within 90 days something else breaks and they don't want to put that extra part on it, or we don't think it's a value, we'll give them all their other money back. And I've done this to a $600 repair. We'll only keep the service charge. Well, it's 0.5% of my total revenue budget. And I know what it is because I see it. In fact, right now it's about 1/3 of 1%. And I budgeted for it. I get it. We're charging for it, but we offer that. Nobody's offering that. Is that something you can do? And it's not as costly as you think. So look at what you're offering as a value, and it should be reflected in the charges that you offer to a customer. So when a customer has a buying decision to make, they're looking at 3 learning domains: cognitive, constructivists, and experiential. And they're hot. They're in a buying mode. And so all that just goes in to tell you that it makes my point. You can go and do the research, look at that article from Psychology Today, and it basically comes down to, they don't call it added value, but that's sure what it is when you read the article. So these are hot customers that are looking for these things that you already offer. And if you don't offer all of them, go back and look at the list and offer them, because they're not hard to do. So quality, price, and service, I mentioned those before. Image is a 4th element that plays into those things. So I mentioned quality when I was talking about the level of service that you offer. It's never price that people are looking for, first or second, never. The quality of what you do you do what you say you're going to do? Will you do it when you said you were going to do it? Will you take care of it if it breaks? Are you going to be honest and forthright with me? All those things speak to quality. Are you ethical? They all speak to the quality of it. And then price comes into play, and certainly image. Listen, it's not hard to get a professional uniform and to look professional, and you all should. Don't go out there in a beat up old Chevy pickup truck that has no signage on it. Buy some magnetic signs. If you're pressed on dollars, I'm not picking on anybody, buy some magnetic signs and spruce that thing up a little bit. It's not hard to make sure that you've looked in the mirror and that you're presentable. If you're going into certain homes, it's hot in the summer right now here, I can tell you, if you have to wear 2 shirts through the course of the day because you've sweat through one, image matters. Image is part of your personality, and it's your calling card when you knock on the door, because people are going to form a first impression of you. And here's another one. We tend to focus on facts and numbers, but it's subliminal, and people will decide oftentimes on other non-conscious or subconscious levels that have to do with the personal connection that they feel with us, or what I would say is added value. Professional, personal, and promptly, they're the things that I'm going to call the added value. So focus on those things. Don't try to sell price. I used some of those examples before. Existing customers, listen to me, this is the bottom line. They already like your service. They're already using you. Make sure that you're asking them to refer you to their family and friends. Send them a little note afterwards. Send them an email afterwards. Ask them to rate you. You should always survey all your customers every way you can. You should be offering the added value. And if they've bought into that and they're doing business with you, then they're probably going to want to talk about you. If you invite them to talk about you, they will do it more than as if you don't invite them to talk about you. The mindset of people is, if they've told you they would recommend you, they will probably recommend you. If you don't ask them, they'll only recommend you as it comes up. But if you put it on the top of their mind, they'll look for places to recommend you. I don't know the psychology in that, but I know it's true. I've seen studies that say it's true. So don't diminish your value or undervalue it. You have a value, your specific value, or what I've called in other presentations, your stickiness. Use your own words, craft what you think your value is, make a list of it on some documentation that you can sit down and look at, tweak it, because that's what people are buying. They're buying you now if you're a one-man operation, or if you're service in general. Think about the things you do well and the things you don't do well. Do better the things you do well and fix the things that you don't do well. And then finally, I think it's finally, let me get to this. There we go. There's some recommended readings. If you want to fall asleep at night thinking about these things, and obviously you can see that I read a lot. Reading is really good for you to learn about how to manage your business. I'm certainly willing to take emails. I've run over, and I won't hold you any longer, but Sarah, unless people want to ask questions, but I want to turn it back over to Jack. Jack, can you tell them some of the stuff you've got going on right now?
Yeah, we've got a couple of things, Dean. Before we do the pricing and some of the stuff going on, I have a few questions, and if you can help answer those, I'll try to as well.
Sure.
I had someone ask about presenting the service charge versus price, and whether you should present it as this is the repair rate or the service charge, and then deduct it from the price.
Well, it depends on the model that you're in. I like to say to customers when they call, when we give a full orbed explanation, well, all of our prices come from the Major Appliance Service National Job Right Price Guide, the blue book in the industry, and our service charge to come out, look at, diagnose the problem, and give you an estimate is $119.95. Once we've given you the estimate, we will look in the Job Rate Price Guide and quote you the additional monies for labor and parts and tax, because that is additional. Now you can say that's long-winded. That's how we do it. I think you have to mess around with that and listen to how people react, how you feel comfortable in making that presentation to your customers, and then you adopt where you feel the greatest traction for how it resonates for you.
I agree. One of the things when I'm doing training for customers, I will tell them that we usually will train you to say your service charge is X amount, or if you choose to do the repair, it's this amount. And the customer has a choice. Either you're going to pay me to come out and diagnose, or you're going to pay me for the repair. And you don't have to worry about doing the whole juggling. No, we take it off and we do this and we do that. It just simplifies it in giving the customer a question. Do you just want me to diagnose, or do you want me to complete the repair and you have a working appliance right now?
Yeah.
So that's how I present it when I'm training new customers with that product. There's a couple things I kind of want to note here. We look, or at least from my point, I look at your warranty companies kind of in a wholesale way versus COD being retail. And so you're charging the warranty companies a little bit less because they're giving you a positive flow of customers on a continuous basis. In some cases, an unlimited flow of customers. So you don't have the marketing expenses. You don't have some of those other things. So we want to make sure that people know that there's nothing wrong with doing warranty work, and that it's a great way to grow your business. But that when we're doing pricing with the Blue Book, we're looking at what we really call the retail side of things and charge it that way. But you can get a lot of benefits. There's a lot of companies that do warranty only work and make a great living at that. So we want to make sure that that's clear with everybody. One of the things that we do with our Blue Book product is we look at it as a way to overcome objections. Mm-hmm. So by having everything preset, you have printed prices in a book, or you have a online system that works off of the exact part that you're putting onto that appliance. The things that we're overcoming with that is, what do you charge per hour? How much is the price? Are you charging me more because I live in a good neighborhood? Are you charging me because there's a Mercedes in the driveway? This is what customers think. We hear this frequently from customers that have thought that. And so by giving them an exact price before you start the work, you're giving the customer a yes or no answer. Okay. Yes, we want you to do the work. No, we don't. It's too much money. We don't want to pay that. So by eliminating that, what you also are doing is taking away their ability to come back to you 6 hours later and say, I think I overpaid for this, or you overcharged me. You've given them the information up front, and they made a conscious decision before you did the repair. So if they come back to you later, the first question should be, is the appliance working properly? Their answer should be yes. Hopefully it is yes. And at that point, what they'll do is then they'll say, well, I think you charged too much. It's like, well, we gave you the option on the pricing before we did the repair. We can't unfix your appliance. So at this point, it's not exactly fair to be challenging the price. You should have done that before we did the repair. So again, the idea there with that is that it becomes the objections of the customer. How much do you charge for the part? Well, we don't sell parts, we sell service. The part itself, I'm sure, is a factor in our pricing, but we look at it like going out to a restaurant and ordering a nice steak dinner, and then asking the waiter after you eat it how much the potato was. Okay, so if you kind of explain that you're looking at it as a whole, it's a whole service. We give you the price up front. We don't charge by the hour. We don't charge by the part. We charge based on the whole repair, and this is what the total price is. They have all that ahead of time, and it removes those objections before the customers take and actually have them a lot of times. What we find with most of our customers who switch to our pricing system, and whether you use ours or someone else, we'd like to make it clear, just get to a flat rate system. It's going to make your life so much easier. But what we find is that most companies who have been using time and materials see about a 25 to 30% net increase, and they see a reduction of customer complaints. Okay, so I've had so many people say, oh, I don't believe it, I won't do it. I had someone argue with me over the phone one time, decided he would get the book, called me back a week later and apologized. He goes, it works great, I was wrong. So we have a number of stories like that. If you guys want to hear them, feel free to call the office, and we'll be happy to answer them. Dean, do you want to tell people how people can reach you if they have specific questions for you?
Sure. dlanders at landersappliance.com. I'm sorry, I used to have a slide on here. I don't know what happened to it, but dlanders at landersappliance. Or you can work through Jack at appliancebluebook.com, or from Sarah at Sarah Brown at unitedservicers.org, and they'll forward me.
No, not even close, Dean.
Not even
it's
close.
Sarah.Brown at unitedservicers.com.
There you go.
Yeah. Yes.
So I posted our
Perfect.
toll-free number. If you have questions for me, it's 877-877 again, 8635. Option 1 will get you to me all day long. And then my email is jackm@Service Company Solutions, or you can go to Appliance Blue Book, My Parts Help, Service Company Solutions, and click on that contact tab, and that comes to me as well.
Okay. Anybody else? Thank you so much for your time, gentlemen. Thank you for everyone that logged in and watched us. Anybody who wants to watch the replay, it'll be up on our website in the next couple days at unitedservicers.com, or you can email us.
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. 2 more things that I forgot to mention there. Number 1, remember that United Servicers gives you a $30 discount on the books, but you have to buy it through their website. So if you go to benefits and then under tools, you'll see the blue book. You click on that, purchase it right through them. They process your credit card and everything, and they'll send the order over to me, and we'll get that book out within a day or so after getting that order. But it saves you $30 off of our website. Also, if you're interested in the online blue book, you will have to go through our website to get that. But we have it with 50% off of the setup charge for the rest of this week for United Servicers customers. So you just go in and log in or sign up for an account, and it'll automatically apply when you get to the checkout portion of that. Normally $149.95. We took $75 off of that. So if that helps, any of the UASA members, that's great. We're happy to do it.
Awesome. Yes, and if you have any questions, one of the easiest emails to remember is administration@unitedservicers.com, and you can email us and we'll respond or get your question to whomever you wanted to ask it to with the 30 phone numbers and email addresses that were just thrown out. So thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on our next webinar.
Thanks,
have a great
Sarah.
day.
Yeah,
Yes.
you too.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.